Welcome. I'm Cindy Edwards, Board Chair for the Jacksonville Onslow Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Chamber's Governmental Affairs Committee, I want to thank you for joining us for today's Forum Onslow. The Government Affairs Committee works with government agencies on issues that affect our local business community. We monitor legislative issues that impact business, promote partnerships between business, government, military, and education sectors, and present forums like this one to create awareness on topics that are important to our entire community. I also want to thank our candidates for joining us today. And thank you to the City of Jacksonville for the use of these facilities and to the city's media services. Our corporate sponsor is Duke Energy Progress. They have partnered with the Chamber to support forums like these for many years. They believe a well-informed constituency will make informed decisions. I'd like to invite Millie Chalk, Duke Energy District Manager for Government and Community Relations and a member of our Chamber's Board of Directors, to the podium at this time. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and on behalf of Duke Energy, welcome to Forum Onslow. Duke Energy is happy to partner with the Jacksonville Onslow Chamber for these important community forums. This afternoon, our focus will be candidates running for Onslow County Commissioner. In this turbulent and uncertain world that we live in, we recognize voting is a right, and being an informed voter is our responsibility. I look forward to an informational session as our candidates outline their priorities for Onslow County. Duke Energy has a proud tradition of leadership and engagement in our communities and is proud to sponsor Forum Onslow. Now, back to Elliot Potter.
Okay, thank you. I'll be your moderator for the program today. This is a program this afternoon is kind of unusual for a couple reasons. One is we are in the throes of, or the aftermath of a storm and throes of recovery. Things are getting better, but they're not there yet. Won't be for a while. So a lot of our minds are not quite on politics yet, but we're going to go forward with this because the election is not that far away. And we want to make sure that people are informed and have a great idea about the candidates that will be on the ballot. The other is because that we only have two people here, but that's okay. We've had two people running against each other before, and so it's not unprecedented that we've had a two-person forum. We were supposed to have a third person, and we're going to hear from a statement from William Shanahan in a minute as the opening statement. I believe both of the candidates agreed to that, and we appreciate that, and I'm sure that Mr. Shanahan does as well. We're going to go through let's go through the rules first, and then we'll get to the opening statements, and we'll include Mr. Shanahan's remarks then, and they'll be read by Lorette Ligon, our president of our Jacksonville Onslow Chamber of Commerce. Okay, so here's the format for today. We will be given the opening statements, and after that, I'm going to switch to asking you questions, rotating the order of who would go first. And I'll keep firing them at you till we get tired. I'm going to give you, other candidates have had about a minute. That can be a little rushed, so we're going to go with a minute and a half for your responses today. And you still have the opportunity for rebuttals, as we have discussed with your two rebuttal cards there in front of you. So if you want to raise one at the completion of a full round, in other words, both of you have answered, you raise your rebuttal card, you get an extra 30 seconds to somehow augment what you had to say, or perhaps maybe challenge a point that you heard. So that's what that is all about. We do ask, though, that you basically, even though there are two of you, and it'd be easy to talk to each other, that you direct the answers to the audience, because that's the way we like to do things here, rather than have a full-on debate. We like for people to address the questions that we do ask. After the rounds of questions, we'll probably go about 40, 50 minutes. We'll have give you an opportunity for summations, which again, you'll have a minute and a half for that. We would ask that the audience refrain from applause during the program. We'll give you an opportunity to cheer these folks on and show our appreciation at the end. When you see the lights, you have the red, the yellow, and the green there. Obviously, you know the green. The yellow means you've got about 15 seconds to go. The red means you've come to the end of your time. And we would like for you to end your sentence, rather than your thought, your sentence, so that we can keep things on a fair and level playing field. Do you have any questions before we go?
No.
Okay, good. Let's start with the statement from Mr. Shanahan.
Thank you, Elliot. And I am speaking on behalf of William Shanahan, candidate for Onslow County Commissioner. Thank you, Chamber of Commerce and fellow candidates, for understanding my circumstances and allowing this statement. Earlier this week, my son decided to enter the world ahead of schedule. Turns out babies don't care too much about politics. This forum is important, but spending this evening with my wife and son, who have just come home from the hospital, is my priority. Under normal circumstances, I would use this statement to talk about my platform of fiscal responsibility, transparency, and informed decision-making, and would highlight my experience and qualifications for the position of County Commissioner. But these are not normal circumstances. As a community, we are facing an unprecedented crisis. People have suffered and are still suffering. Seeing neighbors without necessities has been heartbreaking. Seeing our response as a community has been inspiring. I had the opportunity in the days leading up to my son's birth to contribute and volunteer side by side with neighbors through organizations like the United Way, Jacksonville Board of Realtors, and Onslow Community Outreach. While witnessing the enormous generosity of our community, I did not hear any political debates or partisan arguing. Turns out Onslow residents don't care too much about politics when their neighbors are in need. My hope tonight, as I care for my son, is that Onslow I've seen during and since the storm is the Onslow he grows up in. I hope that the spirit of generosity and love of neighbor I have witnessed will leave an indelible mark upon his character and character of all our children. If we continue to strive to meet the standards we have set for ourselves over the past 2 weeks, our community and beyond will be so much better for it. Thank you and God bless. And those were prepared remarks from candidate William Shanahan for Onslow County Commissioner.
Okay, and now we'll move on with the opening statements. Candidates, if you could, again, with your statement, it's sort of your turn for the podium. You have the podium here, but would ask you to provide some personal background, maybe your occupation, place of residence, and what you think some of your most important qualifications for the job as a county commissioner. And we'll start with you, Ms. Moore.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Thomasine Moore, and I'm running as a candidate for the Onslow County Board of Commissioners. First, I would like to congratulate William Shanahan for and his wife Ada for their brand new baby, and I know that they are excited and they are elated. So, a little about myself. I was raised in High Point, North Carolina, and I'm the oldest of 6 children, 10 minutes older than my twin sister. I attended North Carolina Central University, where I earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science, and then I went on to earn a Juris Doctorate degree from the North Carolina Central University School of Law. After passing the North Carolina bar, I became the first female to practice law in the cities of Jacksonville and New Bern, North Carolina. I have practiced here in Onslow County for more than 40 years. Some of the accomplishments that would include serving as the first female chairman of the Onslow County Democratic Party. I have served as the first vice chair of the North Carolina State Democratic Party. And I also serve on the Jacksonville Planning Board and I've done that for more than 20 years. The City of Jacksonville's Planning Board. Okay.
Okay.
I presently serve on the North Carolina Democratic Party State Executive Committee, and I'm a member of the Democratic Party, Democratic Women, and,
All right, I'm gonna stop you because I'm gonna
Okay.
enforce the time limits even though we only got 2 candidates.
all right, well,
But you can use your
thank
rebuttal
you.
card. If you wanna finish up, you can always use your rebuttal card after we're done.
Oh, that's fine.
That's an opportunity,
Thank you.
okay? All right, Mr. Foster.
My name's Tim Foster, also a candidate for Onslow County Commissioner. I'd like to take just a moment to congratulate William and Ada on the birth of William IV. I know what that excitement is. I have a 24-year-old son and a 18-year-old son as well. And I remember those days in the beginning, how exciting that was. And it's just a great thing for them to experience the birth of their first child. I born and raised here in Onslow County. My dad was raised in Sneads Ferry, my mom in Verona, and they built a house here in the Southwest community, and that's where they raised me as the baby of 3. And I carry that with pride if you talk to my brother and my sister of that. I graduated from Southwest High School back in 1987, and I went to Methodist College in Fayetteville for a year, and I loved the coast, and I was back my sophomore year at UNCW. Got my degree in history and my teaching certification. I returned home here to Onslow County and began my career teaching 6th graders over at Hunters Creek Middle School. After 3 years with the middle schoolers, I knew it was time to get back to my roots, and I was able to transfer back over to Southwest High School, where I taught and coached basketball and soccer and continued teaching history and civics and a little bit of psychology as well. Then I served as a strategic planning chairperson, and I thought it was time to go back to school. I went back to East Carolina, got my master's degree in school administration, become assistant principal at Southwest, went over to Hunters Creek Middle School as principal there, and I come back home to Southwest and have been at Southwest High School since. I currently serve and will be moving that term over to someone else as the president of Onslow County Principal and Assistant Principal Association. I'm sitting on the board of directors for North Carolina High School Athletic Association and advisory board for the State Employees Credit Union on 17 on the south side of town. Why Onslow County Commissioner? Because this is my home. This is the place that has given so much to me, and it has been something I want to return. And the last thing is that thing has gone down saying stopping. The reason Onslow County is because of what you've seen over the last couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you both. And we will start the questioning with Mr. Foster. You get the first shot at this. And so since it's right on top of what everybody's been thinking about, let me ask you this, for both of you. What is your early review of the county's response to Hurricane Francine? Can you identify areas that went well and some that can use improvement?
First of all, my hat's off to Onslow County. Onslow County government, Onslow County schools, everyone associated with the municipalities, because I saw great response. It started in the very beginning. Onslow County put out the notification of that mandatory evacuation. And that was the first step to ensure the safety for our citizens here in Onslow County. Hurricane Florence, first was looked at, it was going to come straight up the New River at about a Category 4. I've done Fran and Bertha and Floyd and others. My mother was here in '54 when Hazel come through, and I just had a feeling it was going to slow down a little bit. Didn't realize it was going to spend 48 hours on top of us. But the Onslow County Emergency Operations Center went into full effect. They did an outstanding job. The roof blew off of one of our motels or hotels here in Onslow County. They responded quickly and got, I think, about 64 people to safety. So they were prepared. They were ready to go. Law enforcement, from the municipalities, law enforcement agencies to our Onslow County Sheriff's Office, they were on scene and they were working diligently to ensure the safety of all the citizens that were here. That was an exceptional thing. As we move forward, we looked at Onslow County schools that we could not house students or people that were evacuating because they were not ready for a Category 4. That's something that I know could be in the plans of looking at preparing some of our facilities for a Cat 4 or 5. But at the end of the day, I've got to be honest with you. Category 4 comes into Onslow County. I hope you just see the tail lights on my little SUV headed out of town, and I'll come back when it's over with, because it's a safety concern for us as well as the emergency responders.
Okay, thank you. And let me make sure that I clarify something. I believe I called it Hurricane Francine. I've known a few Francines that were hurricanes, This was Florence, though. What was your, Ms. Moore, what was your early review of the county's response to Hurricane Florence? And can you identify areas that went well and some that could use improvement?
Well, I thought that the county and the responders and all of the citizens in the community did everything that they could to try to help take care of all of the people that were devastated by this storm. I did not find, or I have not heard any negative responses, and I don't want to hear any, because I think that everybody has put forth the best effort they could, and I'm very proud of it. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thanks. And you will get the first crack at this question.
Okay.
If you were elected as a county commissioner, what will be the top area of concern that you plan to address during your upcoming term of office?
Okay, just one concern? I
Well,
have
yeah, what would
many.
be the top area of concern that
Okay.
you would have that you would like to address?
One of the, my top concern, I would say my top concern would be healthcare. I believe that the healthcare system should put people before profit, and that we should be able to access public coverage through Medicaid and Medicare. And when the state denied us the Medicaid subsidies that were provided by the federal government, I thought that devastated the healthcare system here in Onslow County, and it kicked several thousands of people off of their healthcare coverage, and that would be including children and people with pre-existing conditions. And now our citizens have more medical debt, and the problems, medical problems are growing rapidly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Foster?
When you sit down and see what Onslow County provides to its citizens, do you think is education the top priority? Is law enforcement and the safety of our citizens the top priority? Is our emergency responders top priority? Are the zoning ordinances and the things that we put together to ensure the growth of our county remains in a positive manner? I can't think of one thing that I want to do with any one area or department or office. What I do want to do is make sure that we work to ensure that every department in Onslow County government is funded in the manner in which it can provide for its citizens adequately in each area. I'm not going to put at the top of my list one thing over the other, because what I consider or might think is the priority right now may not be the priority of the citizen 2 houses down. It may not be the priority of the person living in the city limits of Jacksonville. So we have to work to ensure that all departments in all areas are funded adequately to where they'll provide the service that every citizen needs and deserves. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The current Board of Commissioners recently indicated that it will break from the funding formula that has been used for the county school system. Was that a move that you would support? And what do you think the Commissioner's new approach to school funding should be? Mr. Foster, you get the first crack at this question.
Funding formula is instrumental in the success of Onslow County schools. I know that our current county commissioners have voted to eliminate that funding formula. That's something that has been taken care of, and there's no need to make a comment on how that was handled, but where do we go now in the future? I think we very much need to sit at the table with our Board of Education and work together, roll up our sleeves, close the doors, button the windows closed like they did back when they wrote the Constitution, and let's work together to ensure that our students are taken care of as well as our teachers. Funding formula, Onslow County's was very similar to that of the state. If we can't get along and make that work, then that state funding formula may be what comes down. And when you start looking at that formula, it's not fair. I don't think it's fair for the Board of Education to sit and wait for the county commission to give them a number of what they're going to have for this year. But we need to have something in place that they're prepared and are able to begin budgeting and making decisions on a number that they know is already in existence. New funding formula, something I really think we need to think about is we cannot compare it to Mecklenburg. We cannot compare it to Johnson County. We can't compare it to Wake. We've got to compare it to areas that are similar to ours. And when we do complete that funding formula needs two things at the end. And the end of that is if we cannot fund at a higher rate this year, we can't go backwards, that they know they're going to at least get the funding that they had the previous year, and we'll know a number to work with moving forward.
Ms. Moore?
Okay, from what I understand, in 2014, the county commissioners and the Board of Education made a contract between each other, and that was where the formula was formulated. And from that time until this year, the board had the opportunity to know exactly how much money they would be spending based on the contract that had been presented. And when the contract was rescinded, now the board has to go before the county commissioners and beg for money, just like all of the other departments. And I don't think that that is fair. I think that the contract should be reinstated, and I'm for reinstating the contract. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And you'll get first crack at the next question, which is, and I want to point out that the reason that we are having elections for county commissioners this year is because the board and the public has agreed to expand the Board of County Commissioners to from 5 to 7. So consequently, we have 2 open seats, and those are the 3 people that we've talked about tonight, and our 2 candidates with us are there. That's who's running. That's why they're running for this office. Now let me expand from that a minute and ask you: would you favor an election plan that would further provide district or township representation on the commissioners, or would you stick with the current at-large system?
I would certainly favor districts, and I do not like the at-large system. I feel like if we had districts, more minorities would be voted in. At the present time, right now, we have no minorities on the board. And the city council is completely different. We have several minority members on the city council, and that's because we have districts. And so I am in favor of districts.
Okay, Mr. Foster?
7 board members will take place starting in December. Our 5 current have been at the at-large system for many years, and I think we've had a lot of success with that. But as we expand into the 7 seats, I think we need to do a little bit of research into districts and how that would actually play out. Maybe not necessarily 7 districts for 7 people, because there comes some things that are involved with that you answer to a small portion of a group, when you need to be looking out for all of Onslow County, not just one district. By saying that, I also think maybe we need to look at a hybrid system, not a straight 7 districts, but maybe a hybrid system where you have 5 commissioners or 3 commissioners that are from districts, and then you have 2 or 4, whatever the number you look at, that may become the at-large seats. So maybe not 7 districts, maybe 3 or 5 districts, and then look at some at-large seats as well. But we don't want to put ourselves in a position where we're sitting on the board and myself or Ms. Moore representing a small portion, when we really have to work together and support all of Onslow County and make sure that every citizen is taken care of.
Mr. Foster, you'll get first crack at this question. What is your assessment of the county's financial situation in terms of the overall county budget and the tax rate? What are your positions on the current level of spending and future tax increases?
We just went through that tax increase. I'm feel sure everybody's aware of that. And that's not something that you set out to do. I cannot predict the future. and say that we are not going to raise taxes. I think someone said that one time, and it come back a few years later and bit him. That's not something I want to do or want to be a part of. But at the same time, Onslow County commissioners have done a yeoman's job of working on that budget. When they're facing a funding formula that requires a certain amount, they have to come up with that money. And that put the commissioners in a tough spot this year to have to raise taxes to get that money to take care of Onslow County schools. So when you're taking care of Onslow County schools, that's money well spent. But at the same time, we've really got to make sure that we are good stewards of the dollar and not have ourselves in a position that because we want something, we have to raise taxes to go and get it. We have to be good stewards. And with that being said, there's some areas that we really need to work, and I think the commissioners have started that work on working and cutting some areas, cutting back some of that fat, and sometimes that fat gets a little painful, but we need to work on that. But how can we go forward without raising taxes? We can go forward with a possible sales tax increase, which that takes some other things that we face, but at least everybody's paying. When only Onslow County, 60% of our property is owned by the citizens. The rest, 40%, is state or federal government. So I think the government and the commissioners are working hard to see if they can go away from raising taxes.
Ms. Moore, what is your assessment of the county's financial situation in terms of the budget, the tax rate, the levels of spending, and what's your position on any future tax increases?
Well, I realized that the county had to raise taxes, but I would have I wouldn't have raised property taxes. I would have tried to get the legislature to approve sales taxes. When I looked at the budget, I felt like that the changes that were made in the budget were not on an even playing field, and that the monies that were appropriated by the county were not appropriated fairly. When I say this, I mean such as the Boys and Girls Club, they got zero. The Human Services, the East Carolina Human Services, they had requested funds, they got zero. There were several groups that were not given anything, and so I feel that they were that the funds were did not support all of the citizens. So.
Okay, thank you. I believe this question goes to you first, Ms. Moore. Onslow County has experienced, as we all know, unfortunately, an alarming number of deaths and other problems for families and law enforcement due to the abuse of opiates, such as heroin and illegally trafficked prescription drugs. What should the county be doing to address this issue?
The opiate addiction has become a huge problem, like you said, in our community. And I propose making treatment facilities accessible in all of the communities where the problems exist. One of the problems right now that we have is that we have one place where our citizens can go and be treated for these addictions. But the people who are addicted they have no transportation to get to Jacksonville and the areas where the addictions occur are like Sneads Ferry, Swansboro, different places. So what I would propose is that we set up satellite facilities so that those people that have this addiction will have a way to access to the facilities so that they can receive their treatment.
Mr. Foster, what do you think the county should be doing about addressing the issue of opioids?
Absolutely a crisis. We are in a time that we really need to, first thing is take the stigma off of folks that are addicted. I don't think anyone woke up and said, I want to become an addict. I think we need to take that stigma off because a lot of this starts with our prescription drugs from a surgery. And a lot of things need to be prepared for help folks get off of those as they begin to have their pain alleviated as they move forward. We've already started with a great decision by our commissioners to open up the crisis center. But the crisis center is just that. It is a crisis center. It is an emergency center for someone that goes into crisis related to those opioids. Where we really need to work is the afterwards. What do we do afterwards? And the first thing we need to do, and it's kind of the afterwards part and the precursor to what's going on, but we need to make sure that we are funding our law enforcement agencies at the level they need to be funded to attack the problems in all of the areas throughout Onslow County. The second one is where we're already at with the triage center or the crisis center. And then third, we need to work with folks that have this addiction that have been incarcerated, educate, rehabilitate, and prepare for moving back into society. And that's what we need to make sure they are employable whenever they leave the jails or the prison systems.
Okay, thank you. I want to talk now about I have this question from the audience member as well, but what kind of support do you feel, and I believe this one goes to Mr. Foster, what kind of support do you feel the county should provide to efforts to build a multi-purpose or a sports facility here? And, you know, the question from the audience says with artificial turf fields and things like that, I'm assuming soccer might be involved in that. But what kind of support can the county provide for that kind of a project?
We need to do a little bit of research, but I very much support the idea of a multi-purpose athletic complex, but going maybe a step beyond that. When we build or look at building this complex, can we see what it takes to add a civic center or a convention center as a part of it? That is a great opportunity there. First of all, it gives a great place for our children to go. That in itself helps us take care of some of the drug problems because our children have somewhere to go and be a part of. Super access for them. Sports build discipline. Sports build teamwork. Sports build quality character in our individuals, where they learn to work and follow rules and see how failure. And that's a huge thing our kids need to learn to deal with. But it goes beyond just the kids because there's an opportunity where we spend money, but we're looking down the road to bring money back into Onslow County. And that is where we can host tournaments. We currently host the East Coast basketball tournament. Tons of teams come in for that. Let's add more teams to that. People coming into Onslow County, the beach is a great place. They want to come here, so we can create these tournaments. I can get it right this time. We can put some heads on those beds, and we can bring in some money to help there. And at the same time, it gives a home to our Onslow Jacksonville Sports Commission. And in these next 4 seconds, it'd be kind of interesting to see at what level could we build this multi-sport complex center, civic center, convention center that could meet the standard for an evacuation site or a shelter that's possible down the road.
Okay. And Ms. Moore, I'll ask you the same question. What's your position? What kind of support would you see for some sort of multi-purpose center, maybe some sort of athletic facility?
I support providing a multi-purpose sports center, but I also believe that to attract tourism and industry and big business in this county, we have to be competitive, and we have to provide our constituents with facilities where we can have, we need a convention center. We need the convention center so that we can host conferences and we can have big, large functions and bring in groups, bands, and since we have the military, we need to keep them happy. So right now, we don't have anywhere to bring in big business or large functions. So as a result, I would support providing a convention center.
Okay? I'm gonna follow up that convention center a little bit question with say, right now, the county collects, funds from occupancy tax. What would you see the priorities for use of that money?
Me?
Yeah,
Okay.
and Mr.
I-
Foster too.
I believe it's about $2 million that the county receives from occupancy tax. If we could use that to help build this convention center, that would be great, in my opinion.
Was it, but any other priority or just
Oh, you mean for the
with
occupancy
the occupancy
tax?
tax? Yes.
Anything to help with our infrastructure. I would like, for instance, right now at the airport, we have 2 airlines, and they have 2 hubs. One goes to Charlotte and one goes to Atlanta. If we could bring in more airlines and or convince more airlines to come to Onslow County, and these airlines would fly to different cities other than just Charlotte and Atlanta, I believe that we could grow the economy.
Mr. Foster, what would be your priorities for use of occupancy tax revenue?
In the beginning with that, I would like to see us take that and reinvest it into our economic development. And we reinvest in economic development, and we reinvest into a lot of the tourist sites or things that come to Onslow County, so we can continue for that money to continue coming to us. A little redundancy with continuing to continue, but we want to make sure that we maintain the areas that people come to Jacksonville and Onslow County for. Reinvest that money so that money grows. And if we continue to reinvest part of that money in building our infrastructure and working on our Civic Center, Convention Center, and our multi-sports complex, and we are able to bring folks into Onslow County, that money is going to continue to grow. And then we're going to turn around and get to the point, hopefully, where we market part of that occupancy tax is going to be reinvesting, and the other part is going to be maybe advertising through our tourism, go into our economic development. Let's go out to Burton Park, continue to work out there. The Jacksonville Onslow Chamber of Commerce, and we appreciate you putting this on and looking at economic development and what needs do they have? Where can we take and write them a check or hand them some money to bring more business and industry in the Onslow County? At the end of the day, our job is not about making money, but about bringing revenue into the county to meet the needs of the citizens and continue moving forward into the future.
Well, and my next question is going to lead into that. You mentioned economic development. What are the kind of economic development efforts do you feel should be pursued to generate more jobs and capital investment in Onslow County?
I tell you, that's tough, because we've got some folks that are working hard to bring that to Onslow County with the Jacksonville Onslow Economic Development. They work hard with this. They're getting ready to develop their strategic plan that's coming in the future, and that's going to be about bringing business and industry and capital into Onslow County. Burton Park is a great start. We currently have the Shell building sitting out there. I know there's been a lot of work in trying to get business into that. And then while we're trying to get business into that, we also have to create some carrots where they look at it and they say, man, this is a place I want to be. And education is an area that we got to continue to build, because businesses look at the education in the areas they're moving into. And we have a top-notch education system, but we want to continue growing that. And folks, we really need to advertise more Coastal Carolina Community College. the career development opportunities there, the continuing education there. That is a gold mine to the people in Onslow County. Other areas don't have what we have with that. And that in itself, if we will continue to work with Coastal and our kids graduating college ready, going into the Coastal, leaving with skills, businesses want to come to skilled areas, and our school system and our community college can help ensure business and industry is going to come to a place with employable citizens.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore. What about economic development activities? Which ones do you support? What do you see that might provide some hope for Onslow County?
In order to champion a strong economy in our county, we need to attract industries, tourism, and families. In order to attract large industries to this community, we must keep our roads in good condition and expand them. We must be competitive. Right now, we don't have a major interstate system. And we can encourage large companies to invest in our community without a railway system, a public transit system, and improved airlines. So I propose that we improve our infrastructure and schools and power lines and the sewage and water system so that we can bring big businesses into the county.
Okay, thank you. What leadership role, I want to kind of get away from the issues a little bit, but I want to ask you a little bit about I guess, what leadership skills you'd be bringing to the table here for the Board of Commissioners. I want to know about the leadership role outside of elected office and outside of politics that has provided you with your most useful experience and your greatest rewards. Yeah.
Okay, I feel that I can be fair and impartial. I feel that I'm a caring person, that I understand the needs of the community, and those are I can provide, those are the reasons that I'm running.
Okay. Mr. Foster, what experiences would you point to maybe outside of politics that have sort of given you useful experience and provided you with the greatest personal rewards?
Well, as stated earlier, I'm a high school principal, and that in itself is challenging. You're not only a leader of adults, you're a leader of students, and you're a leader in your community. High schools are the hub of your community. When things are going wrong, things are tough, people look to that high school or the schools in that community. And unfortunately, I've been in positions as the leader that I've had to gather my people, support my people, and build them up and prepare them for the tough road that's ahead. Teaching in itself is difficult, but it's a job that people go into because they're called. So when folks are down, it's my leadership skills that I'm able to look them in the eye and let them know that what you are doing is worthwhile. What you are doing, no one can put a price tag on it. The day may be hard, tomorrow may be harder, but when it's all said and done, you will reap what you sow, and the benefits of what you do will be in the eyes of the adults that were once children in your classroom. I look at people every day, people that face challenges economically, people that face challenges in their home, and I convince those kids and work with those kids that their future is bright, that they have opportunities that those before them did not have. And it's those leadership qualities that you take the tough days with the good days, and at the end of it, great leadership lets you know it's the people that matter.
Okay, thank you. I want to talk a little bit about something that sort of right now is very much in limbo, but the problems of the north end, and this, Mr. Foster, you'll start this one. The problems at the north end of Topsail Island particularly have been well documented, and they precede, quite frankly, Florence. It seems like an entire portion of the county has been at risk at falling into the sea, structures and all. Just offshore, the navigation of the New River has also been a persistent concern. What, if anything, should county government be doing to address those situations?
Historically, there's been a lot of money that has been placed down to North Topsail Beach, the town of North Topsail Beach and the north end of Topsail Beach itself. That's a huge economic epicenter for Onslow County. Topsail Beach is about 27 miles long, but Onslow County, that part of it's only about 7 miles, maybe a little more. I'm not quite sure on that, but I know it's not a huge portion. I think the county commissioners have already sent some money to North Topsail Beach, where they have worked to do some research of what's going to be in the best interest and going to be the most successful at that end of the island. That end of the island has faced a lot of adversity, one storm after the other. It doesn't have to, Elliot, it doesn't have to be a hurricane that comes in at North Topsail Beach to create the havoc that it creates. A nor'easter can come in and do some of the same damage. So when we go into this, we need to figure out a way to get rid of the Band-Aids and find something that we know will work, whether it's the terminal groins or the jetties that we have to put in place to protect it. But at the same time, what we do there cannot create negative impact further down the island, whether it's Surf City, because Surf City is part of Onslow County as well, but we can't have a negative impact down into Surf City and down even into Pender County at Topsail Beach. But we really have to find something that we can make as a permanent fixture that is going to be long-term, because we've done a lot of work that's worked in the short term, but we need to continue that research of what can we do for the long term.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Moore?
We can't let the island get washed into the sea, that's for sure. So we have to attempt to save that island, and to do so, I think that it would require some studies to figure out how to fix the problems. So I would suggest that we study the problem and try to resolve it and not just walk away from it.
Okay, thank you. And you'll get the first.
I'm sorry,
You got a
just take
rebuttal?
about a few
Okay,
seconds.
well, not a rebuttal,
We won't
but
waste
whatever.
them, we'll go ahead and try and put it to use there for a minute. And I also want us all to remember, it's not just the North Topsail Beach that we're looking at and concerned about. It's also shrimp boats that go out of New River Inlet. It's the folks that their livelihood is based on getting to that ocean. And if you haven't been down to that inlet, get in a boat and try and navigate that. Not just one season, but do it in multiple seasons, because you'll watch how that inlet changes, drifts, and moves, where last year you could have gone this way, but you'll run aground if you go now. And we need to make sure we remember there's a livelihood that goes out of New River Inlet.
Okay, Ms. Moore, you'll get first crack at this question. The addition of 2 commissioners could swing the past vote of the Board of Commissioners to defeat what they call the brunch bill that would have allowed the sale of alcohol on Sundays 2 hours earlier in unincorporated areas of the county. So what is your position on that proposal?
I support the brunch bill. That's my position.
Okay.
And it brings money into the community, and just because it's a different hour, it doesn't mean that much, so I support the brunch bill.
Okay, Mr. Foster?
I remember this question a few months ago, and one of the things that I really would like to do is sit down with the chamber and our economic development and look at the numbers that's coming in. The commissioners made a decision. I support them in that decision. If that comes back up, I would really like to sit down at the table and see what impact that is having on our unincorporated areas in Onslow County. Is there a loss of revenue? Because I don't want to see our businesses lose money because of that. If the city of Jacksonville, these businesses are booming, not necessarily booming, but are making a considerable amount of money in a year based on that bill, I want to make sure that we're not sacrificing someone there just before you go onto the island because they cannot sell, because they're not in a municipality? Is there an economic impact to those individuals? If we see people that are having an economic impact, then we need to look at making sure we can take care of them as well.
Okay. We'll try to get in a couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up. I have a question about, at various times the county government has played roles. Sometimes people even seen the county as the enemy for the prospects of rebuilding downtown Jacksonville. What do you think should be the county's role in developing a strategy there for downtown Jacksonville?
Downtown Jacksonville, I grew up here. So I vaguely remember downtown Jacksonville back in the early 70s. Can tell you Charlie Daniels played there in downtown Jacksonville at one point. The revitalization and going into downtown Jacksonville has been very successful for the most part. We do need to continue. Look, Jacksonville is the center of Onslow County. If we can continue to look at the waterfront property down there and work to build downtown Jacksonville as a place for people to come for festivals, there's opportunity to bring people in, part of some economic revenue coming into Onslow County. We do a great job with the National Night Out. What are some other things that we can do here in Onslow County and downtown Jacksonville? Jacksonville is a part of Onslow County, so I think Onslow County government can look at some things that are going on there. What can we do to help support the revitalization and the growing of downtown Jacksonville? If I say Cotton Exchange, everybody knows that's down in Wilmington. There's a lot of folks that visit those boardwalks down in Wilmington. Sure would be very interesting to see what can we do in downtown Jacksonville and build and create some opportunities, shopping opportunities in there. And I think Onslow County government can be a part of that, working with the city council. What can we do to continue to bring downtown Jacksonville up?
Okay, Ms. Moore?
Downtown Jacksonville has changed immensely since I first arrived in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and it has improved greatly. I think that we need to continue improving the area. There's murals and that they're putting on the buildings and trying to make the community look great and bring in different groups. And I think that if we can continue to do that, it will empower Jacksonville.
Okay, I've asked this question, and this will be the last one for you. I've asked this question at all the forums that we've had. I'm gonna ask it to you, and Ms. Moore, I'll get you to start. There's been a lot of talk about hardening of the schools to make them safer for the students. What are your thoughts about what we can and should be doing to promote and to better school safety?
Well, I certainly don't support bringing in different people with guns to guard the students. I've seen a lot of talk about that. So I just think that we should continue with our sheriff's department and police department governing, taking care of the schools like they are now with their SROs, and I think we'll be fine.
Mr. Foster?
As a sitting high school principal, you know that safety of that school is top priority. That's number one. Right now, all middle schools and high schools have school resource officers. We really need to look at the state, because bringing in SROs or school resource officers to the elementary school is going to be a costly endeavor. And I think the state of North Carolina, our folks in Raleigh, they need to really work with us in these local districts and help fund a SRO in all schools, including every elementary school. And that creates an opportunity that we don't realize is such a huge asset, is you put a law enforcement officer on an elementary campus, their first encounter as a student with law enforcement can be a positive one. We have a lot of students that their first encounter with law enforcement is not positive. So if we can put a officer on an elementary campus, we can begin the building of the positive relationship between kids or children and law enforcement. They move through the elementary school seeing that as a resource for support and help, that they are good. They move right into middle school, right into high school, and then they're willing to come to you and say, Officer so-and-so, Deputy so-and-so, this kid has this, or this kid has threatened us with this. They know that is a friend, someone they can go to. And I think it's imperative that we look at the state and we look at what we can do. As I've said in the past, I don't think anybody in this room or anyone listening will put a price tag on the safety of our children in schools.
Okay, thank you both. That ends my questioning. So that brings up your summations. And Mr. Foster, I'll give you first shot. You have a minute and a half.
Couple of things that I absolutely believe. Number one, education is the key to economic development in Onslow County, as I stated earlier. We have the premier educational system in this county. We'll have business and industry chomping at the bit to get in here. They want employable citizenry. Our county agencies must be appropriately funded to meet the needs of all of our citizens. We do definitely need to spend time and look at this opioid crisis, because that crisis doesn't care who you are, your socioeconomic status, but it's something that we need to keep on the forefront to provide for our citizens. Our budgetary decisions have got to be based and addressed in a fiscally responsible manner. We can't make money and just go spend money. We run out of money, we can't go tax to get more money to spend more money. It must be done in a fiscally responsible manner. And as I said earlier, Onslow County is my home. It has been since the day I was born. I want my children to stay here. I want my grandchildren to stay here. And I want you to stay here. And I want people to move here. This is a great place to live, work, and raise a family. And if the last couple of weeks doesn't say what this community is, I don't know what will. From Jones Onslow and Duke Energy to Onslow County government to the Jacksonville city government, right on down to all the other municipalities. This is a great place. And I want to work with the current commissioners and you and every citizen to ensure that this county remains the premier county in eastern North Carolina and North Carolina itself.
Okay, Ms. Moore?
Thank you. First, I would like to thank the members of the chamber and their staff for giving me the privilege to share my visions with you this afternoon. If elected, I would serve with civility, courage, and integrity. We have to love our fellow man, and we have to treat each citizen with dignity and respect. Integrity means that I will stand up and fight for what is right and what is fair. I intend to make sure that we have a voice on the board if elected, and that voice is heard. I want to put families above special interests. On November 6th, vote more to get more. Thank you.
And thank both of you for adhering to our guidelines here and doing a great job of keeping this program moving on. I also want to thank our timekeeper for keeping us going, Lisa Muravito, so we appreciate her. And I'm going to turn this now over to Lorette Ligon, the president of the Jacksonville Onslow Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Ms. Moore, Mr. Foster, and your willingness to serve our community. It's good to hear from you. Elliot, job well done. Cindy and chamber staff, especially Janet, thank you for helping with today's forum. I also want to thank Duke Energy, our corporate sponsor, the city of Jacksonville for the use of these facilities and their media services. And those watching on TV, if you missed any of part of the forum, just look for the listings on G10 for the rebroadcast times and date. And everyone remember, your vote does count. The absentee ballot forms are now available online at the Onslow County Board of Election website, and you can also find the dates, times, and locations for the early one-stop voting. As Ms. Moore said, Election Day is November the 6th, 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. at your local precinct. On behalf of the Jacksonville Onslow Chamber of Commerce, thank you for joining us for this forum, and this concludes our program. Thank you.